forgot. Hey, I'll make sure I'll have one Tuesday night. Welcome, everybody. It's 5:30, and we're going to start the workshop. This is the workshop for the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, February 1st, 2018. This is for the February 6th, 2018 regular meeting. The prayer is with Alderman Cole. The Pledge of Allegiance is with Alderman Jones. Everybody needs to look over the minutes for January the 9th, 2018 regular meeting and January the 29th, 2018 special meeting. Tuesday night we'll have one presentation. That puts us down to consent agenda. Number 4, A, motion to approve or reject city bids and purchases. Number 1, state contract pricing, replacing vehicle for police department. Who's got that one? Number 2, repair and replace chassis, squad 2 vehicle for fire department.
That'll be Ricky.
That's Ricky?
Yep. Chief would have number 1.
B, approve the 2018 league facility user agreement with the Laverne Baseball and Softball League. AC, is that you?
Yeah, Bill, they just asked for some changes to be made to it as far as reduction in prices on what they're having to pay the city for tournaments. But other than that, everything stays the same. And the option to have one-day tournaments for $750, which actually works better for us, because we don't have to babysit for a whole weekend if they're just going to do a one-day tournament. I don't know how many of them they'll actually have, but they like to have that option left open.
Okay.
And I don't have any issues with it.
Anybody have any questions, or AC has these no issues? C, approve an agreement for engineering service with Volkert Incorporated to develop a transportation plan and a land use plan for the city of Laverne.
Mayor, this is something that Adam's been working on. He's got the agreement to Evan. This is what we put in the budget for the major thoroughfare plan and the land use the transportation plan as far as the comp plan and stuff. Volkert has got a proposal here as to, what they'll do, which is basically do the plans. The cost is in there. And this is, within what we had budgeted. And pretty much that's it for right now. I mean, if y'all got some questions, I think you can let me know. I can get them to Adam. Or if you have any questions now, we can probably go over some of those too.
Okay. Number D, approve attorney representation agreement. This is due with that special meeting we had for the OPIR to investigate the lawsuit. We met with the attorneys in a special meeting on the 29th, and it was spoke about in length. Anybody have any questions on D? We'll move back up to A, motion to approve or reject city bid and purchases, state contract pricing, replacing vehicles for police department.
Mayor, Alderman, the packet shows there for you what we're asking to do. We're in a situation now to where it's critical for us to try to replace some old vehicles that are costing us quite a bit in maintenance. And we've only bought 3 vehicles since 2013 that went within CID, which is normally non-traditional vehicles. And those were in 13. We bought 1 from the drug fund for narcotics. What we're asking for is to purchase 5 replacement vehicles for non-patrol assigned folks, admin, and 4 replacement police pursuit vehicles or police pursuit package vehicles. The Ford Emergency contract is actually $5,307 a piece less than the Chevrolet Tahoes. And most of the equipment we have will move over, with the exception of buying some mounting parts and so on that we can't reuse. But pretty much everything else we feel like we can reuse out of anything that's gone out of service, or it will be the same as what we have now. It will require down the road doing some budget amendments, but we went through down through there and gave you an idea what our cost and pricing were, and we should have enough to cover not only the purchase of the vehicles, but the replacement of some radios and some equipment, and purchase new equipment for those that we don't have anything for.
Any question for the chief
And
about the,
those are all state contract. Wilson County Motors has Chevrolet bid, and Ford of Murfreesboro got the Ford bid.
any questions for the chief?
Just one. The price listed here includes the equipment, the radio equipment, and the lights and sirens.
No, ma'am. The price of the vehicles is simply the vehicles themselves. We have another, if we have to buy everything, we're looking at double the price, a little over double the price of the vehicle when we start talking about radios and the laptops. And we're in a position now where we're having to start replacing laptops, so we'll have to buy those. Docking stations, video systems, we're going to be able to reuse video systems. The price that's shown for the vehicle is simply the purchase of the vehicle, the 31,000, whatever it is a piece for the Fords, and then we'll double the price for those. We're probably not going to put very much in the non-traditional vehicles. We'll use portables and have some very, very minimal emergency equipment, lighting, etc. The additional dollars that are left after we purchase and the overall moving around should cover everything we need. But the vehicle cost itself does not include.
Do you have a quote in here for those items?
No, we don't. We don't, because we're going to have to go through and get all the equipment quotes from the various individual places.
Any further questions? Thank you, chief. Good job. Thank you very much. Now, let's go back to number 2, repair and replace of chassis, Squad 2 vehicle for fire department. Ricky, they say that's you.
Yes, sir. What this is, you know, several months back, we had a car to T-bone one of our squads here on Murfreesboro Road. It ended up, those TerraStar chassis are no longer made, nor are the parts for them. So it ended up being a chassis total, but the actual body, the fire body on the rear is okay. The lighting equipment, the radio equipment, pretty much everything. We thought the front extended bumper was going to be okay, but we found it was cracked fairly well once they got underneath and looked at it. So it's going to have a new front bumper made for it. But what this is just asking for the permission to go ahead and order the chassis itself. This is also for the changing of the box out from the wrecked unit, the lights, the equipment, and everything else. Basically, it's the final payout from insurance company for us to go ahead and do the swap out to a new chassis in order to put that truck back in use. Due to the fact that chassis is not available any longer, due to the problems we had, we bought 2 of these trucks at one time. We did have some turning radius issues and all with that chassis after we ran them for a while. We have moved this up to just a tad bit bigger chassis with a much better turning radius, a truck that's been around for a lot longer. So this chassis is a little more robust than what we had. And in our opinion and everybody's opinion that deals with international, a much better suit for what we do every day with that truck. So, the check is already back. The check is back for insurance here for it. There is a small difference in the depreciation there for it, but I think it was in the terms of about $8,009.
I don't think that much.
Yeah. So it's very minimal. This truck, that's $350-some thousand truck. So it was a pretty big hit. And as far as insurance and what we're doing with that, I have no idea. We may get some recoup back from the individual's insurance company that hit us. So I don't know where really that stands right now. But basically, this is just permission for us to be able to get that chassis ordered and get that truck back in service again. Because we're currently just running with one, and we're running it to death.
Anybody have any more questions? Moving on to number 5, first reading ordinance 2018-01, an ordinance to amend the City of Laverne zoning ordinance to, as it pertains to a convenience store. This received a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission on December 28, 2017. Who can fill us in on that?
Mayor, this is something that went through Planning Commission. Of course, Bo's not here tonight. He's under the weather. But basically, this is where it puts in a definition for convenience store sales. Of course, reading into the ordinance, it's business sale of primary order of the business is the sale of beer and cigarettes. So it's basically the beer and tobacco shops. And then it puts restrictions down further as far as where they can be located. Is pretty much the main portion of this.
Any questions on the convenience store sales? Number 6, first reading ordinance 2018-02. It's an ordinance to amend the Title 1, Chapter 1, Section 1-101 regarding the time and place of regular meetings. Who could speak on this?
Mayor, I had received a request to basically add a provision where the mayor would have the authority to cancel a regular meeting with adequate public notice. This kind of all came about back in December when we were looking at the meeting schedule for next year, or for this year rather. And so it just, in case we ever had an issue come up where we needed to cancel a meeting, we would have the ability to do so. Because right now, the way it's worded, we don't have that ability to cancel any meetings.
Any questions on the regarding the time and place of the regular meetings? Number 7, discuss first reading ordinance 2018-03, an ordinance to amend Title 1, Chapter Section 1-102 regarding, wait a minute. We done number 7.
No, sir, this is a different one.
Okay, we done number 8. This is number 8, a resolution 2018-03. This is a resolution authorizing the City of Laverne to participate in a National Joint Power Alliance, what they call a NJPA cooperative purchasing program.
Mayor, I can talk about this one. At some point, we will need to go back to number 7 because that is a separate ordinance. But for number 8, this resolution basically authorizes the city to participate in the NJPA, which is like it says, a cooperative purchasing program. It is a political organization out of Minnesota, I believe, that they bid out various products and services. It's very similar to what we do with the GSA and with the state contract purchasing that we do now. State law does allow us to join cooperative purchasing programs, and there's a lot of cities across the state that are joining the NJPA in order to get better pricing on various products and services. So this resolution would allow us to join that and use their purchasing powers to hopefully save us some money on various items.
Any question on the cooperative purchasing program? We'll go back to number 7. I think we missed that, didn't we? All right. Number 7, this is a discussion first reading ordinance 2018-03. It's an ordinance to amend Title 1, Chapter 6, Section 1-102 regarding the order of business at regular meetings.
Yes, sir. Here again, received a request to move the order of business around a little bit. Currently, we have presentations following the department reports. And the request here was to move presentations ahead of the department reports in a meeting for those folks that would, don't really want to stay through all of the reports and business that we do. So the other change that I made in this is in the first sentence there, where it talks about the order of business shall be observed unless dispensed with by the mayor with no objections of the members present. Currently, our municipal code calls for a majority vote, I believe is how it's worded. And to my knowledge, in the whole time I've been here, we have never actually done that. So in order to comply with what we're supposed to be doing, I kind of reworded that where the mayor could move the order of business around if needed, as long as there's no objections by the other board members that are present. So kind of cleans that up a little bit and then reverses the order for the presentations and department reports.
Any questions on that? I know we've done it in the past, and everybody, I think, has liked it so good. So no question on that. We're down to number 9. This is a motion to approve a software as a service agreement with Tyler Technologies Incorporated for the purchase of an intergovernment permitting and land management software used NJPA corporate purchasing pricing. Who's got this one?
Mayor, I'll take this one. Randolph's out today, but basically this is something we had put in the budget and discussed at the retreats and probably a few retreats before, of trying to look for permitting software instead of doing all this by hand. That's currently going on over at the Codes building. Basically, we've met with several different group or software packages that they're all very similar. Some of them do have different options and different things, and it seems like after we had a few different demos that Tyler Technologies is kind of more along the lines of what would be a fit with kind of how we do it. The previous, not the schedule of the meeting, but number 8 on the agenda where we, as far as the NJPA, Tyler Technologies has the bid with the NJPA with this intergov permitting software. So that's kind of why that NJPA is also on here. So that way, if anybody asks if this was bid and stuff, that's kind of how we're doing this. But basically, in your package, you're going to have a few pamphlets and stuff about the intergov software, kind of how it works and things. Then you're going to have a very lengthy, I thought it was all the contract when I first got it, but the contract actually is about 14, 15 pages. But then as far as the scope of work, whenever they come in to implement this, it's probably 100-something pages. So it's very lengthy to go through, but the main thing is going to be this will be a permitting software. It won't have to be done by hand. Hopefully, what we're looking at is maybe have iPads or something similar so the inspectors can do the inspections in the field. Once this gets up and going, the developers will be able to schedule inspections online as opposed to having to come into the front office. They can actually fill out permits and stuff online too. Of course, there's a little bit more work to that, but it's going to be kind of a benefit for the developers and the builders who's looking to schedule their permits and try to get things done quicker. And as far as on the flip side of it, it's not by hand anymore. So all the mistakes that can be done by hand, hopefully those are, cut back or eliminated. And then, of course, whenever you're trying to look at reports and quick reports, if this board has a question about, how many, not just how many single family, but how many condos or how many homes in this value, it'd be easier to pull up. So that's kind of some of the main points of it. This also does have mapping involved in it. So like if an inspector has 10 inspections during the day, it will give you the best route to take. Also, like I said earlier, since people can, and this is stuff we're going to have to work with and monitor once we get it in. Because of course all cities work differently and they've got it set up different ways for different cities. But if the builder gets on and says, hey, I need a slab inspection, and it goes automatically, it gets pushed through to the inspector would have the option while out in the field next to it that if he gets it, he may say, well, I can just go ahead and grab that before I leave this area. right now, we don't really have that option. The best way we do it is in the morning, they get a schedule of inspections from up front and then go do those. And then anything that comes in throughout the day is usually pushed to the next day. So there's a whole lot of stuff that could be, it's going to be changing with this. And probably the best thing is if you got a lot of questions and stuff, to be able to get a fair answer would be, try to get those to Randolph, maybe by email. That way he can kind of tell you kind of how we're currently doing it, and then how the software is, how we've been explained that it will work.
So Kyle, what are you looking at? Because when it comes to pricing, because whenever I'm looking through the packet,
Let me try to find the page you got in the packet.
yeah, there's two different, looks like service levels, professional and silver. I don't know if we're looking at both or one or the other.
Go to page 131, it's Exhibit A, or 134, it's Exhibit A.
Okay.
The actual cost per year, so like, once we get it up and going and started, it's gonna be around a little over 31,000. Now, of course, that's dependent on how many users and license agreement we have. Right now, we're saying 15, but once we get this started, we may find that someone in fire may need access or a license, someone in public works may need one. If we find that, then of course, we can add more users, but of course it comes with a cost, and you can kind of see that in that chart. So that's going to be like the yearly fee. The setup fee is on 135, which is what they're projecting is up to $88,000 to set it all up and get it all going, which is going to be about 6 to 8 month process that they're going to have to come in. They'll take what forms and stuff we're currently using, and either we'll continue to use those forms, or we may use different forms. But basically, this is to put all the forms together, all the documents, enter all the cells. That way, we're getting all the stuff set up. And one thing I left out earlier, this is all cloud-based, so it's not, we're not going to have a server here that's holding all this information. It's all cloud-based. So, and that's also in your packet. It'll explain that there's 2 different locations that this information's stored and all that. And of course, not the documents, but all the data that we input, that's our stuff, and we maintain ownership of that if we ever go to a different software program. But as far as, the software itself, if we quit paying the fee, of course, we don't have access to it anymore.
And then do you know how much we budgeted for this?
In the budget right now, we have $130,000 for this year, because we knew that from asking around the different cities, this ranges anywhere from $30,000 to something very minimal to, if you buy the software and everything else, it could be a couple $100,000 if you actually get the the equipment and have to maintain it yourself. So we felt more comfortable after we had talked with a lot of people last year to budget around $130 for this first year, and then kind of go from there to see what we had. And so this is going to fall under budget, and of course next year we'll be able to cut back a whole lot on what we budgeted, because we don't have that first startup fee.
Right, and they've got their travel fees, so we're coming just slightly over it then, right?
What's that?
With their travel fees?
Well, you got to look at it this way. The $88,000, it's like I said a while ago, it's a 6 to 8 month process. So if you start looking at that, we're not going to go through the whole $88,000 in this budget year. So kind of what we'll have to do for the next budget year is we're going to have to budget the remainder of the 88 that we're still working on, along with the 31 for the next year. So that's kind of where that's what I'll work out.
Okay.
Just have one question also, and that is, will this software allow regular homeowners to file a complaint against someone with a codes violation?
That is the way we've been explained to, yes. There is I guess it's called the community portal. Plus, right now, we already have Bruce, what's the exact login on that or whatever? We already have a program right now that you can log in, city, complaints and stuff like that.
Complaint tracker.
Request tracker.
Yeah, request tracker on our website. We have that in a form already.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any further questions? I think that puts us down to appoint or remove board members. Bruce?
Yes, sir. A is the Board of Zoning Appeals. We have one term that expired at the end of January, which was Alton Goodwin Sr. We did talk to him, and he would like to remain on this board. We did advertise it on Channel 3, have not received any other applications at this time. Letter B is the Construction Board of Adjustment and Appeals. The term for Felicia Anderson expired at the end of January. Here again, we did talk to her, and she would like to remain on this board. We did advertise it on Channel 3, did not receive any other applications, so she is the only applicant for that position. C is the Greenway Advisory Committee. We've had a vacancy for a few months now where Doug Smith had resigned. We've been advertising these positions on Channel 3, or this position, I should say. And we do have 2 applications, one from Ryan Bizzari and one from Jimmy Favorman. So it'll be up to the board to appoint whoever you'd like it on that position. Letter D is the Library Board. This is the term for Dan Garrett that actually expired on December 31st of 2017. We have been trying to contact him to see if he wishes to remain on this board. We have still not heard back from him at this time. We've been advertising the position on Channel 3, and we have received 1 application, which is from Kamisha Sadler. I will note that, because it was brought up, she actually lives in Antioch and not Laverne, but she is a city employee. And according to the municipal code for the library board, that is allowed to have a city employee as a member of this board, regardless of where they may live. Letter E is the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee. We have 1 vacancy there. When Sybil Pedigo was removed a few months ago, we've been advertising this position on Channel 3, have not received any applications. If we do not receive any applications by Tuesday, I'll remove this from the agenda. And last, under the boards and committees, just an information for the Local Emergency Planning Committee. We do have 1 vacancy on this board now from the former water plant manager. He is no longer with the company there running our plant, so we do have a vacancy, and basically just want to wait on reappointing somebody to have another full-time project manager up there at the plant. So this will not be on the agenda for Tuesday night, and we'll wait until after they hire somebody full-time in that position.
That puts us down to number 11. Motion to approve our interlocal sewer agreement with the town of Smyrna to provide sewer service to the Blair Road drainage basin.
Mayor, if you'll recall, we had a rezoning request go through, it's been a few months now, for a portion on Blair Road for development coming in. I believe it was PDR zoning, in order to have sewer for that development. The only way they can really get sewer easily, or I should say more easily, is to go with the town of Smyrna. We've been working with the town of Smyrna for several months now, trying to get this agreement worked out. Basically, Smyrna is willing to provide the sewer service for that entire drainage basin, which there's a map on page 241. And that shaded area there is the whole basin that they will serve for us. This agreement, basically, whoever lives inside that area and has Smyrna sewer will pay the sewer rates for the town of Smyrna, which I believe right now is actually considerably higher than what they would pay if it was Laverne sewer. So they will need to be aware of that. But basically, this is just the agreement between Laverne and Smyrna to allow them to provide the sewer service for that drainage basin.
Any questions on the drainage basin?
Bruce, is this a permanent agreement, or is this something that eventually those
Yeah.
residents will be able to switch over to Laverne Sewer?
As of right now, it is written up as a permanent agreement. If you look at section 2 on page 235, it says the agreement shall serve as long as the town of Smyrna owns and operates a wastewater plant under its municipal government. I think if at any point we were able to provide service, I think we could work with the town of Smyrna to amend this agreement accordingly. We originally had in there, I believe, as a 25-year term, and then renewals and all of that. But I think Smyrna really changed it more than we did to make it more of a permanent agreement, because our concern was, what if they decided, no, we don't want to do it anymore? Well, that sewer's got to go somewhere. So that's why it got changed to more of a permanent type agreement.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any more questions? I have a couple. Do we have any other sections of the city that we are hooked on to Smyrna Sewer? I didn't think so.
I don't believe so.
What is this going to cause a confusion in the billing cycle? The billing, I know it'd be a separate, we usually bill sewer by water, so, we'd have to have some kind of deal to get the bill from Smyrna and then add it to and shoot it out. It'd be some difference.
What would happen is basically we'd take our monthly water readings, and then we would charge the customer the appropriate rate that Smyrna is charging us, and then Smyrna would bill us based on the number of gallons, and then we would pay Smyrna every month, based on the number of gallons of water that is used. So that's how it would pass through. They have similar agreements with Consolidated Utility in Smyrna. I believe Murfreesboro has some agreements like that with Consolidated. So this is not a new thing. It's just first time for us.
The only big problem I got with it is these undeveloped land, and the people that's going to move in, they won't know that till they get there. I'm sure if we changed it to a section that we already hear and they know that their sewer rate was going to go up, they'd probably fill this room and have some input in it. But, we're making decisions on people that's not here. And if they come in and they have a problem, we can't do nothing about it.
I think what we would have to do is when they sign up for service, we'd have to make sure that they are aware that they are being charged Smyrna sewer rates. There is a section in the agreement that actually talks about that, a notice to the customers. So we would have to provide that notice to them when they sign up.
But that would probably be after they done purchased the house.
Probably.
So they'd been locked in. And then they'd come here and they would say, well, how come I'm being charged more than the average thing? And then they say, well, we can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
I know if we changed everybody on the other side of the interstate to Smyrna Sewer and their rate went up, I guarantee you this room would fill up, and people would complain about if their bill was $10 or $15 or $7 higher. People were making decisions on something that people just is not aware of. But that's one of the concerns I have. Anybody else have any issues with the Blair Road drainage? Number 12, motion to authorize the city attorney to file a lawsuit to enforce a code violation at 429 Randall Lane. Who's got this one?
Mayor, I understand that it was requested this item be placed on the agenda to enforce an issue involving a residence here in Laverne where, if I understand correctly, I know Randolph's not here, but apparently there's a residence here in Laverne that is not in compliance with our codes. These folks, if I understand correctly, have been cited to city court multiple times and have been fined. My understanding is also that they have not complied as of the last information I have. The city court, so options that city governments have if you get in a situation like this is city courts are limited by law to only be able to fine somebody $50 for every violation. City courts don't have the power to enforce their orders beyond just a fine. Municipalities have the option of going to state court and suing the landowner who's in violation of the codes ordinance, and at that point, if successful, could obtain what's called a temporary injunction, which is a court order requiring a landowner to come into compliance with codes. If that court order is not obeyed at that point, then the person in violation of that court order can be held in contempt of court and then jailed until such time as they come into compliance.
Any question on the lawsuit enforcement of code violation? Number 13, discussion motion to accept the donation of a fire prevention trailer to the city of Laverne from the City of Murfreesboro Fire and Rescue Department, Fire Marshal Curtis Brinkley.
The trailer that we're looking at is a 2007 Scotty Mobile Concept Fire Prevention Trailer. In the packet I gave you, there's some pictures just behind the front sheet of what this trailer looks like. The intent of this is to provide a year-long fire prevention and safety program versus the one time of the year during October. With the acceptance of this donation, we could actually build a curriculum that we could introduce to the city throughout the year. Some benefits to that would also hopefully increase the points on our ISO rating. There is a section within ISO that specifically addresses fire prevention. And with the implementation of a program such as this, we might possibly be able to obtain an additional 1.5, which is that much closer getting us to a Class 2 ISO. According to Murfreesboro, this trailer was purchased 2007 for $60,000. Today, the depreciation value is around $29,000. We did some research from one of our commanders that kind of oversees the maintenance with our apparatus and vehicles. After looking into some things about the only maintenance upkeep for this trailer would be your typical RV non-motorized maintenance, your tires and your trailer brakes and such, miscellaneous items such as light bulbs and so forth. So the maintenance would be very minimum according to what we found. At current time, this has been approved by the City of Murfreesboro's fire chief and their fire marshal. This will still have to go forth their city council for 100% absolute approval. But before we requested that they do that, we wanted to ensure that we would be able to accept the donation. That way, it wasn't a waste for them. Further along in the package, you'll see a bid for a brand new fire prevention trailer. I introduced that to you guys so you could see the price difference as what it would cost for us to actually purchase a brand new one. Take in mind that price does reflect a lot of additional things in the trailer, obviously more modern, and you could review that for yourself. Average cost of that would be around $100,000 to $150,000 for a brand new one. Versus if we're able to accept this donation now, then we can go ahead and start with a prevention program that I feel could be very successful at very minimal cost as far as, minor maintenance. So,
Where will this unit be stored?
at current time, we'd probably house it behind Station 3 under the enclosed awning. The goal is, once the new headquarters is built, we'd be able to store that within an actual enclosed facility.
Would this require more personnel?
More personnel? No, ma'am.
Okay, I see a couple of things on here that you would probably want to keep on here. I'm quite sure we're going to get rid of Murfreesboro Fire Department.
Yes, sir.
Would you want to, since FEMA donated, would you leave that on there?
Yes, sir, probably. Just give
And then
credit to
they got
FEMA.
The below the smoke, I mean, certain things that you've got a schematic on how you want it. It's not going to be a full paint job.
No, sir. Actually, throughout interdepartment discussion, we have actually discussed putting a small portion into the upcoming yearly budget that would allow us to put some additional decals on it. It would not be a full wrap. It would simply be replacing the Murfreesboro Fire with the Vergne Fire and Rescue, and possibly maybe update a few of the additional decal graphics on there. But we would not attempt to get the full wrap of the. We'd want to keep it somewhat the way it is now. If you look at the trailer on the front, you'll see an enclosed glass area. Inside this trailer on the front, that's an actual sprinkler containment room. So you could actually build a live fire in the front, activate an indoor sprinkler system within this enclosed area. You can see the effectiveness of the actual sprinkler system. So that could be beneficial for some of our commercial buildings that may have questions on how sprinkler systems work and so forth. Going throughout the trailer, it's essentially set up like a normal RV. You have a 911 phone that can be utilized to teach more specifically juveniles and school-age children the importance of doing 911. You can do mock 911 calls inside the trailer. This trailer itself is piped throughout that you can insert artificial smoke, obviously, you know, stuff that would be healthy, but it can give the actual effect of the trailer smoking up, simulating a house fire. The doors actually heat up, which are all controlled, so you can teach, you know, young people how to read and check the doors to make sure the doors aren't hot before they just open it up and introducing themselves into a fire situation. So there's a lot of benefits that this trailer can offer for us, absolutely.
Any further questions for Ricky on? So since you up there, we'll catch you on 14.
Okay.
Number 14, that's discuss motion to approve an application for the assistance to the firefighters grant for a vehicle to pull the fire prevention trailer. Fire Marshal Curtis Brinkley.
Yeah, this is the a grant that was forwarded to us by the State Fire Marshal's Office about a week and a half ago. It's assistance to the firefighter grant, more specifically fire prevention. What we're specifically requesting is a twin model of the new Commander truck that you guys have approved the purchase. I believe total cost will be around 61, give or take, without actual figures in front of me. That'd be completely spec'd out to what the new truck is. This grant is a 90-10 grant, so we'd be responsible for 10%. So essentially, if we're able to obtain the grant with your permission, then we could possibly get an identical twin model of the new Commander truck for roughly $6,000. The benefit to that would be the new Commander truck would be adequate enough to pull this prevention trailer. However, that truck is specifically designated for emergency responses for the shift commander. This truck would be assigned more specifically for fire prevention to carry the trailer and other fire prevention gear throughout the city throughout the year and doing instructional programs. It will still be spec'd out for emergency response, so it would be there in the need. But for example, if we utilize the new Commander truck and they have the trailer hooked up and there's a need for them to respond, then obviously they're going to be trying to respond with a 27-foot mobile home attached to the rear end, which wouldn't be the safest thing. So like I said, if we can get a brand new truck for $6,000, give or take, you know, that would be an additional resource to provide additional education for the city. I just think it'd be beneficial.
Any more questions for Curtis? Who will be driving this truck and pulling this trailer?
Probably me, but ultimately it'll be up to
Do
the
you
chief.
have to have any special license or certification?
No, it's a 3500 HD Chevrolet.
So
It's
just regular license, what you
Class D
take?
license.
So you're capable of doing it?
I believe so.
Good deal.
But
Any-
can you back it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, I can.
Just look out for mailboxes,
I take care of
Watch
it.
the mailboxes.
like mailboxes.
Any questions?
Thank you,
All right,
Curtis.
thank you, guys.
Good deal. We're down to number 15, discussed motion to approve an application. Oh, we done that one. Or have we?
It's a different one.
That's a different one.
No, so many of them the same. Number 15, discuss motion to approve an application for the assistance of firefighters grant for a backup communication equipment for the fire department. It's Ricky McCormick. Yeah, it is different.
It is different.
Close.
Different person, same grant.
Yeah.
AFG's got quite a bit of money they want to give away this year, so I hope a lot of it comes to us. What this is here is our backup communications, basically, for the fire department. It used to be our primary system, which was VHF, and then, of course, we went over on the 800 system to meet the P25, to meet the federal regulations, to meet the P25 standard by going on to Metro. We've maintained, to some extent, we've maintained that VHF because it also acts as our paging system. When we do have a fire, it's the paging system within our stations, and we also have the capability of using it to activate pagers and phones and things like that when we're outside the city limits to do callbacks and things like that. However, that VHF system is not P25 compliant for emergency services. Since it's a backup system, it was not one that the government pushed on really hard to become P25. They're still out there right now, even dealing with other departments and all to get their main communications up to P25 standards. So what this would do, though, this is as Curtis told you, this is a 90-10 grant from AFG. The total cost of being able to do this equipment and put it in service as a full backup for us And currently, we don't have any VHF portable radios, so if 800 was to go down, we would not have any method of having communications with any firefighters inside of a fire or anything like that, because we don't currently own any VHF handhelds. They're only mobiles and base stations within the stations for tone out, and then of course dispatch has the VHF capability. Even our current repeater though is not P25 compliant and is definitely not interoperable with the surrounding areas. This would bring us up to full P25 compliance and also give us a complete backup system. Other things that could be looked at for this as well is special functions and special events. These portables could be used, and this system could be used on special events, larger events in the city if somebody needed to borrow equipment. This is a total standalone. This is not on a Metro contract or on anybody else's system. It is standalone, and it does completely belong to the city of Laverne. It is contained in the city of Laverne. So, as I said, it's a 90-10 grant. The total on it with installation, antenna, and all come to $66,033.09. So we'd be looking at roughly around $6,600 in our 10% matching grant on that, and that would give us a complete VHF backup system to use within the city.
The 10% grant on both these deals, we probably won't get it. No, we're gonna get
No,
it.
sir, we're actually gonna leave, we're actually probably gonna end up leaving $10,000 this year. We try to put what we think we may be able to get on the AFG grants or on other grants. We try to put a little bit into our fiscal year funding. We're probably going to leave 10,000 in there this year. That'll just roll over into our other lines that we've gone over.
So it'd be
Yes, sir.
basically budgeted
It'd be-
for next
yes, sir.
year.
We'd probably budget 12, 13.
What about the maintenance agreement? I'm sure we'll need some kind of maintenance agreement.
It would be very minimal on this. These radios are nothing compared to what we're using on 800 megahertz because they are back in the old conventional type system. And then the fact that we're not going to be using them on a daily basis, it's very minimal amount of maintenance on them. You know, an occasional, like anything else, just wear and tear if we were to go in on a fire and knock a knob off or something like that. But maintenance and repair on this, it might be something that we look when the new contract comes up for our 800 equipment of adding this equipment onto it. But very minimal cost even if we did that compared to the 800, because these portables are running roughly about, let's see, what are these portables? They're running about $1,100 a piece. Our 800 megahertz portables run about $7,000 a piece. So considerable difference in parts and prices and stuff there. So,
Any further questions on the communication equipment? That puts you down to 16. Discuss update regarding water treatment plant, Dwayne Lowry. Mr. Lowry.
Mayor and Aldermen, I wanted to give you guys an update of what's been happening in the month of January regarding the need to connect to Smyrna's water and what's been happening at the water treatment facility. I received a phone call while I was in Texas on January 11th to come to Laverne to try to help out. When I arrived here, the water at the facility was not at the levels that it needed to be. The turbidity levels were high. And what that does is when the water is being treated, turbidity levels get high, you try to filter them. And when you can't filter anymore, you have to backwash them. The backwash water comes from the clear well, and the water that goes to community comes from the clear well. So as we kept the vicious cycle of putting the water back to washing the filters, we did not meet the demands of the community. So first thing I started to do was work with the former project manager, work with Mr. Dietz to find out that the TDEC had already been contacted on what's been happening with the water level. And I started going in and running some chemical tests to try to see is our chemical settings right, so that we can make sure that we're creating the right blend to get the turbidities down. With that being said, we made some changes on January 11th that was improving and Me and Mr. Dietz and the former project manager decided to call TDEC to see what we can do, because I thought we could maintain without having to connect to Smyrna. We were very clearly mandated on the morning of January 12th that we were to connect to Smyrna, so that until the treatment plant got turned around. So over that weekend, when Mr. Dietz got everything connected, we started feeding from Smyrna, and we kept working on the plant. The issue with the plant came down to not having the right chemical in place. So I'm going to get a little techie here, and I apologize for that. But when you treat the water, basically, when you look at the lake, river, any raw water source, all the particles that don't settle very simply have a negative charge. When you add your chemical, you want a chemical that has a positive charge, just like a magnet, so the two things will come together and make what's called a flock. In the wintertime, that flock is really small, really fluffy, and lightweight. So the demand was high because of the extreme cold weather that we've had, where people were running their faucets and trying to make sure their pipes weren't freezing, and we had a lot of demand. Working with Mr. Dietz, we could not find a leak in the distribution system within Laverne. It had nothing to do with main breaks. It had nothing to do with anything else. I think we found 3 service lines leaks on a mobile home park, and we had 1. And service line leaks do not cause this problem. So with that being said, I went back and told them we're missing a chemical. I informed the previous project manager back in November about a chemical that we need, known as a blanket aid polymer. What that chemical does is it takes the particles that you make when you add it with the original coagulant and makes them heavier and forms a blanket. And what you do is you get a sludge blanket in the unit, and then everything starts clearing up, and the particles will get held within the unit instead of blown out of the unit with the higher flow rates. So on January 24th, we got the blanket aid polymer in place, and we started feeding it. And we connected to Smyrna on January 12th. We fed from them until about 9 a.m. on the morning of the 14th, turned back on the afternoon of the 17th, and kept running until the 24th. We didn't disconnect, but we stopped pumping from Smyrna on the 24th because the plant started to turn around. And we started making turbidity numbers that were very much acceptable and well below the standard. On the Thursday, the 25th, we returned the pump to Smyrna, and when the pump is no longer there. Infomark has taken ownership of the costs for the pump. We're taking ownership for the cost of the overtime and labor associated with the maintenance and monitoring of that pump, so that all that burden will come on us for paying it, because it was not anything to do with the distribution system. It had to do with the treatment of the plant. We are in violation of a rule. There is a thing called the 95% rule in regard to turbidity. When I arrived, we are already in violation of that rule. What that means for us is very similar to what we experienced back in September, where we had to, right at the end of August, when everyone got the public notice right before the August workshop and the September BOMA meeting, we are going to have to issue a public notice to the community to let them know that we violated the 95% rule when it comes to turbidity. So what does that mean? You're regulated to be less than 0.3 nephelometric turbidity units, NTU. And if 95% or more of your samples are there, you're good. If you don't have 95% of those samples, you're not good. What did I do in the meantime as soon as I arrived is turbidity in of itself, as I explained back in September, is not harmful. There's nothing about turbidity that is going to cause anyone to get sick. There's nothing about the turbidity that even required us to do anything other than do what we did. There was never a boil order issued in this community because of the treatment. But what it can do is it can hide things, and that's why they regulate it. So I required our department to go out every day, Monday through Sunday, and sample the entire distribution system, 5 samples a day throughout the whole zones, and run chlorine residuals and bacteriological analysis. All the chlorine residuals were good, and we never saw any bacteria growth anywhere in the entire month of January. We did that all the way through yesterday. The plant right now is doing great. When I got to the plant this morning, we had a little over 80% in the Sanford Knob tank, 87% in the Sanders tank. McFarland tank was never a problem. It's been cycling like normal. And it had about 14 feet in the clear well. We got plenty of water. We've completely resolved this issue as of today. We're still watching it, monitoring it, making sure that we can do it, and just keep an eye on it. But the chemical was needed in order to make this happen. So that's kind of where we are. We had our challenges, but I just kind of want to let everybody know that the issue was really from missing a chemical to plant that was required, and we could not meet demand. Now, we're able to meet demand, and we're pumping, oh shoot, I think today we were at 4.0 going out the door, and we're filling everything up during the day. So we probably could have even cut back. So we're in really good shape. So is there any questions I can help with, or hopefully that explained it, but anything I can answer?
Some of the citizens have expressed some concern about the cost for Laverne taxpayers. So I know that you already said that your company assumed responsibility for that, but can you tell them about the bill that we'll receive from Smyrna? Or lack of bill, I should say.
You will not receive a bill from Smyrna. It will be passed through. So technically, Bruce or Phyllis or somebody's going to see an invoice that's going to come to us, and we're going to write the check, and we will pay for Smyrna. And we are also, once again, we are paying for the City of Laverne's Public Works, the people that were on site on overtime and regular time for the work they did to monitor that pump, because there was a lot of work done on that side too.
Last time there was a public notice, people were, in the public were concerned about the time between when there was a problem and whenever the letter was received. How soon can residents start to expect a public notice on the turbidity levels?
So it's going to be, January just ended. I really have to wait till the end of the month to make sure that I do all the math and get the state informed. State's been informed. We have the template to do it. We will get our letter written. I will run it through my company command, make sure we have everything that has to be done. And then the issue is how long it takes the printing company. We've got to get all those done. It would all be mailed at the same time. My expectations is probably the end of February, first part of March, that the letter will be received.
The last time we had a violation, Bruce, wasn't we were waiting for the state wasn't the delay due to we were waiting from the state to do something?
That was when TDEC came in and did their annual or biannual review of our system, and they looked at our records that we had in place at the time, or I should say the water plant records, and determined that we should have done things differently, that better records should have been kept at the water plant. And so when they looked at that, they determined that we had a violation at that point. So that's why there was such a delay, because it was several months prior, maybe even a year prior.
It was about a year and a half prior.
About a year and a half prior, when they looked at that violation. And of course, we never put a notice out because we didn't know about it in the plant. I don't know if they really knew about it or not, but they didn't put the
really, when
notice
you
out.
look at that situation, remember that was a 3-second blip on a turbidimeter, an electronic blip. I would arguably say that was not a turbidity event, but because we had not documented that event adequately enough, the state held us accountable for it. I will say this event, as sad as it is to say, is a real turbidity event, and is our proper due diligence to issue the public notice as required by law. And I took extra extended efforts by making sure we did. I mean, we're only required by regulations to take 40 bacteriological samples in the city every month. So you got 40 a month that you're required to do. That really is like 3 every Monday through Thursday, and you're done. We did 5 a day every day, just to assure that everything was okay. Chlorine residual held well, bacteriological analysis as well. It was just unfortunate that a chemical that I recommended back in November was not implemented, because we would not be here today. I would be sitting back here, the meeting would be adjourned, and we'd all be going to dinner. But this is where we are, and the chemical's now there, and we're doing very well at the moment.
What kind of safeguards are in place to make sure this doesn't continue happening?
Well, it really comes down to what we're trying to do with the flow. So when you look at that and say, can you increase your flow out of this plant? So one of the things I've been working with Kyle and Bruce on is to say, okay, we got the chemical now. Now we're making sure that everything in the front half is taken care of. So can we increase our flow? The plant is rated for roughly 9 million gallons a day. We have that Paul membrane unit that you guys have approved the funding for that has been out of service, and they're currently on site working on it. We hope to have that up and running with next week or so. That's going to give us another 800,000 gallons a day capacity. And, you know, it's really just running these tests and saying, okay, chemicals are here, blankets here, getting my operators up to speed to say this is where this blanket needs to be, because there is challenges with creating a blanket in the winter. It is significantly easy in the summer and challenging in the winter, but we're making one. So as we keep doing it, I made a commitment to Kyle and Bruce that we'll keep raising the flow so that we know what is our bending point. My gut feeling is that we will be perfectly fine all the way up to the 9 million gallons a day. But until you run it, you don't know. So our safeguards is to run these tests instead of waiting for the demand to say that you need it. Let's make sure we can be ahead of that by running all the tests that we need to do, so if the demand does get to 9 million, we will meet the 9 million. And then if there's something that comes up that we need to do something different with, that's when I'll be talking, and we'll be coming up here, and if we need to make requests for funding for something. Right now, we had 5.6 raw water coming up through the doors today without a problem. So it, honestly, from my experience, I've run super pulsators in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Davenport, Iowa, and Alton, Illinois. And all three of them required a blanket A polymer. That's why my recommendation before I left back in November was for us to put a blanket A polymer in place. And I showed them what we did have was a cloud of flock. Really, it's just something where it just hangs because the flow rate is just perfectly smooth for that level. As soon as you raise the flow, it comes out of the unit, goes right on top of the filters. And unfortunately, the previous project manager did not act upon that. And that's why this happened. We had it tested. We had a guy come in on December 7th, so this is the product you need. We pulled that trigger on the product arrived, supposed to arrive on January 22nd, didn't make it to the 24th. But as soon as the product arrived, we've been really, really good. I mean, I can easily, I offer every one of my operating reports tours of the facility. I can easily walk anyone through that facility if anyone wants a tour and show you exactly what that means, because you can see it from the top. And I can show anybody who wants to see what it means to run a blanket in a super pulsator and how a water plant runs. Be more than happy to do that, as long as it's not on Friday, because I'll be in St. Louis.
Any further questions?
I just really want to thank you for you and your company accepting responsibility and protecting the taxpayers with the financial cost of this mistake.
Mayor, I just want to make sure the information's clear on Smyrna, because real appreciative of what they've done for us. As far as the water that we did receive for them, I want to make sure everybody's got the correct information. We are not being charged for that water. We will be sending the water back to Smyrna at a future date that we both agree on. So just want to say we're very appreciative of that, and I also would like to say I just want to say to Dietz and his department, I'm really appreciative of them, because this is I think they did a great job through this.
We sort of had a mutual agreement like we did with like the fire department with Smyrna.
Yes,
we
we
hooked on to Smyrna. If they need water, we'll provide their water, and if we need that water, we'll get water. It's sort of like a mutual agreement, something like we got with the fire department, right?
Yes, and that's why I just want to make sure the information's correct, because I know that a lot of talk has been going around that the water is going to be at a premium, and that we're really going to get charged for it and things like that. But like I say, the correct information is that we have discussed it with Smyrna. Dietz has confirmed it, and they are not going to charge us for the water. It's basically we will pay them back with giving them equal amount of water as what we receive from them.
So if Smyrna has a problem, if they call us, say, well, we need to tap on, we just turn, and we have mutual agreement to give, help them with water.
Yes, in the future, that's what I would suggest for the city, of course. I mean, of course, we'd give them the water, or allow them to receive water from us as long as they needed it. And I think the city should repay the gesture back that, if that ever was the circumstance, you know, we wouldn't charge them for the water. We would let them pump water back to us to, you know, to equal it out as opposed to having that fee charged.
Any further questions? Thank you. Thank you for coming out and explaining it so well. That helped a lot for everybody. I guess that puts us down to mayor and alderman comments. Alderman Jones?
I too would like to thank Mr. Lowry for the layman's portion of that. When you get into your numbers, it gets a little groggy, but I thank you for your explanation on that also. I was informed that there's going to be a daddy-daughter dance at Roy Waldron Elementary on February 10th, 2018, from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. If any of you would like to, we'd like for you to go in and help Roy Waldron out and participate in that with a daddy-daughter dance. And pardon me?
$5 a couple.
$5 a couple.
Actually, if you got a couple dollars you want to bring into it, probably $5 already.
But if you come stag, it's still $5.
Show them why you should.
Oh, okay.
I have to call my dad to see if he'll join me.
But again, I think as far as the public being notified, as I've stated before in the past, and I'll say it again, one of the best ways for the public to be notified is when you watch this. When we got the subject matter experts, everyone can hear them say it. You can print what you want, but when you got the subject matter expert telling you how it is, even though it's probably going to be altered for some, but I think it's best to hear it from the individuals. And again, I thank you. And thanks, Kyle, for your explanation on that also. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Brown.
Well, we have an exciting month for February. February is Black History Month. I just want to remind everybody of that. And the library has a nice display out for that. Also, Groundhog's Day is tomorrow, so be on the lookout to see if we have 6 more weeks of winter or not. And we have Valentine's Day coming up. There's just a lot of stuff going on in February. But I also want to take the time to thank our community. And by community, you know, we might be the city of Laverne, but our community doesn't stop at the borders of the city. And Smyrna has come through for us in 2 different ways this month, just like we will come through for them if they get into a pinch, and we have before and will again. That's, to me, what a sense of community is helping one another in a time of need. We had a couple of needs, and they helped us, and I know our fire department has helped Lebanon before. Was it Lebanon?
Mount Juliet.
Mount Juliet, sorry, it was Mount Juliet. So I think that's what makes Tennessee great, is that we do have a sense of community from border to border, and even outside of the borders, because we're the volunteer state, we'll go wherever the help's needed. And so I just want to thank everyone in our larger community than outside of our borders.
Alderman Cole.
I want to thank Mr. Lowry for his explanation and the company for absorbing the charges with overtime and doing the additional testing. Want to ask everybody, definitely keep the fire department in your prayers. I know yesterday, multiple events, very tough day, so please remember them. Thank you.
I keep speaking about this because it's very important for the city. I want everybody to remember the census is extremely important to our city. The Laverne Rescue Squad in Box 100, I think, started today going door to door. These organizations will be going door to door with census cards, and it's very important to fill these cards out, because every person that fills these cards out, it's around $127, and hopefully we can get everybody to fill them out, where, you know, it'd be hopefully some extra money to come in, and everybody can always use extra money, you know. And I want to thank Tom and Cal and Glenn. They have worked diligently on this census. I mean, y'all have worked I don't know overtime, but y'all burnt counted on both ends, and of this moment, it's been over 15,000 people that sent the cards in, and that's way above.
Hero on that because he's typing all that in manually.
And that's way above the expectation that we had. And I think a lot of it goes to Tom and Kyle and you, Glenn. Y'all have worked, and Tom especially, because Tom has worked hard on the mail-outs, the signs, the input of data, the monitoring of mail entries online. And he comes every Monday to give us a staff update. And with him working economic development, and he's put countless hours in on the census, and it shows, all three of y'all, it shows the hard work. And I want to congratulate the three winners of the census drawings. Each one of them so far has got $100. It's a gift card, and we got one more drawing. So the ones that's already sent the census in that hadn't been drawn, they're still in the drawing, right?
Yes.
You know,
If you send it online.
only the one, online, but the only ones that's not eligible is the ones that's already won, right?
Right. Anybody that submits.
So everybody's got one more chance to win that $100 gift card, and you know, the highest electric bill been this month, and I got mine 2 days ago, and I got my water bill, and I let my water run like Mr. Larry said. You know, I usually run between 800 and 1,200 gallons, and my consumption was 3,000 gallons. And I'm sure everybody in the city in this cold weather for 2 weeks has run it, and that's the reason probably so much water has been used, because people use twice as much water. I know I have. And I want to thank all the volunteers for the city that sits on these boards. I know for about 15 years, you know, I've sat on a lot of boards, but I've been a council member. But we've got a lot of citizens here that provides their time and sits on these boards, numerous of boards, and it's quite a few citizens, and they do it and they do a good job, and I appreciate it. Appreciate everybody and the hard work on the board, because for years we've had a lot of people just sit on if it's the Parks Board or the Zone Appeals Board. They come in here and they spend sometimes 30 minutes and sometimes it's a couple hours out of their time, and time is worth money, what you said, and they do it, and they do it unselfishly and do a great job, and I don't think we give them enough thanks of what they do. And again, anytime I can blow the whistle on Laverne to say positive things, I'm going to do it. Again, I want to thank the staff and all the employees for all their hard work the past 3 years. Our accomplishments and positive growth has put Laverne on the map, not just in Rutherford County, but in across Tennessee. We are ranked in top 10 in Tennessee for the safest city. One thing, because we've had a low crime rate, and that goes to the police department. They worked hard, and it's hard to be a policeman right now. You know, it's hard, and they do a good job, and I appreciate everything the policeman does, the fireman does, and the unsung hero is the dispatchers. You know, they sit in there, and they're the backbone of 911. I've been told that by anybody in emergency services, and we've been a top 10 in the state in financial sound and stability. This has allowed us to lower property tax and even lower the city debt. I travel around and meet mayors from all over Tennessee and sometimes all over the country. And they tell me how much they're struggling. They're laying off. They're having to raise taxes. And we've been lucky the last 3 years. You know, we've done a good job. And you know, I like to take 100% credit for the last 3 years. My administration has had a good record on being stable in finance. But this staff, the employees, they're the backbone of this city, you know, and the good work that y'all done, that shows, and I appreciate it. It makes us look good up here when y'all do a great job, and y'all have done a great job. The past 3 years, you know, my administration would not be possible to do the greatest job we've had without a good team, and y'all the good team, the staff, the administration, the employees, and y'all's excellent work has really showed in Laverne, and I appreciate it. And anytime I can get up on my soapbox and brag about Laverne, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it every chance I get, because I go to Smyrna, Murfreesboro, or anywhere I go and meet other city officials somewhere, I always tell them this is God's country. This is a great place, and I wished every city could be as fortunate as Laverne has been, because I'm proud of Laverne, because my family has been in Laverne for over 200 years. I couldn't say that in 2016, but after 2016, I can officially say my family's been in Laverne for 200 years, and Laverne has been good to me, and it's been good to my family. And I love Laverne, and I have nothing else to say, and I appreciate everybody being here, and I call this workshop over.